Morning. This is Dawn Allen and Debbie Burkhart with Voices from the Middle. This weekend, so close to the holidays, the world was rocked by familiar violence. At Brown University, a shooter killed 2 and injured 9. In Australia, 2 gunmen let loose on Jews celebrating the start of Hanukkah, killing 15 and injuring dozens more. The killer at Brown is still at large. Bondi Beach in Australia, 1 gunman was killed, the other injured. It was a father-son event. In Brentwood, an upscale part of Hollywood, well-loved director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were murdered in their home by their son. The weekend is sadly representative of the world we now live in. The POS in the White House's reaction was typical of the hatred we now see openly on display worldwide. The same issues resonate in all of these incidents from the weekend that we talked about in all of 2025. Mental illness, guns, and a broken healthcare system. It's past time that we force Congress to address these issues instead of fighting like petty 7th graders. Sorry, 7th graders. It's time we, the people, demanded answers and established limitations that allow our representatives to be fired if they fail us again. I refuse to accept there are no easy answers from them any further. If you put 10 mothers in a room for 3 days, they'd come out with answers and a plan. I'm tired of Congress's pissing contests. I'm tired of us burying young people. I'm sick of the public shame the Republican Party pretends is a president. The students at Brown University deserve more. The Jews on Bondi Beach deserve better. The Reiner family deserves empathy, not judgment. The American people have reached a line in the sand. Today, we step over it. We step over it with all the fight we can muster. No more putting off the things that are vital to the survival of our children, the survival of people of color, the survival of Jews, and the survival of our families. Debbie, what do you think?
Well, I agree with everything you've said. It is unconscionable that we have allowed these mass shootings to continue for more than 20 years. I don't think there's a country in the world who would put up with the crap we just are putting up with now. There is an easier answer to stopping these. If our legislatures would have the political guts to do it. If these shootings were happening in executive boardrooms with shareholders, all of these mega corporations, you can bet something would have been done. But because they're children and families, who cares? It more than my mind can understand. And we've talked about this throughout 2025, the lack of availability of mental health care, the overability of guns, the inability of schools and families to get help for kids who appear to be at high risk for these types of things. But, it's not just kids doing it now. We've got adults out there shooting up everybody. So I mean, the answers are obvious, and the fact that we're not doing anything about it shows how little regard we have for our children. One of the things that we have lost through this political era is a sense of community with each other. There's all kinds of communities, and over the next year, we're going to explore the many different types of communities, healthy communities versus toxic communities, and why it's become more difficult for us as a nation to come together. Why are we so divided? Is there a way that through community we can bring all of us back together again? What do you think, Dawn?
Well, we grew up in a different time. And I think to a certain degree, those of us who did grow up in a different time think that our society is broken because it doesn't look like the one we grew up in. But the reality is, it can't look like the one we grew up in. It can't. Grandparents live into their hundreds and they don't stay with their sons and daughters. Everybody doesn't live under one roof. And we have way more single parent homes than existed back in our day for a host of reasons. And so what we have to do as a society is find the ways in which we can make our communities, as they exist in this day and age, matter. Because to be very honest with you, I don't want any potluck dinners. Didn't like them in the 50s and 60s, so no thank you, right? But today, we have so many options we didn't have then, right? And communities have definitions into the thousands. I know that we are all a little bit unnerved by the existence of AI. There's really good valid reasons for that reluctance. However, I don't want to adopt Congress's way of handling things, which is to say, well, there aren't any easy answers, so we can't fix it. I don't care if there aren't easy answers. Find the hard ones. Grow up and grow up here, because the people of this country are sick of y'all, all of you. And we'd really like to just fire all of you and start fresh. So be aware that midterms are coming not too far around the corner, and heads are going to roll. Debbie?
It's true that when we grew up, community, there were different communities, and I'm not talking about a town. I'm talking about community where people are there for each other and support each other. And you found that a lot in churches and in small towns and in neighborhoods, and those still exist. But we have so many more opportunities for community, and I think we let our busy lives sometimes get in the way with connecting to people. And that, again, we're going to talk about that more in the during 2026. I'm losing my train of thought. I'm sorry. We have communities that are only online, groups of people who get together on a regular basis. Some are together due to a shared interest. Some are support groups. We have groups that get together not online. These communities kind of organically grow and build themselves. But I don't think we can just sit back and expect a community to fall in our laps. We have a huge divide right now between Republicans and Democrats. And let me be clear, it's not all Republicans. But the hate that's spewed from either side toward the other is not going to help us solve any problems. And we have to learn to talk to each other. We have to learn to listen to each other. We have to learn to understand where the other person is coming from and come together to understand and then reach real solutions, connect with each other, and form real bonds. We don't all have to be the same. We don't all have to think the same. We don't all have to be of the same religion to connect with each other and want to support each other. And I think that's really missing today.
We're looking forward to 2026 and the input that we'll get from, excuse me, our guests, because there are a lot of different types of communities that have popped up in reaction to the fascism that's running rampant across the world, but in particular in our country. And that's something we saw in the 50s and 60s, but haven't seen a whole lot of until that guy, whose name is not going to pass my lips ever again, P.O.S. I'll say that to prevent being bad. We hit our year mark in this podcast, and we spent some time looking at all the problems we've had technologically speaking, and they seem to be ongoing. But we agreed that we got a lot of input from guests that widened my perspective, and I'm sure widened Debbie's, which is exactly what we all need to be doing. I took my sister-in-law to a doctor in Oklahoma City, and I took my writing, and I was going to work on my writing while I waited for her. But a woman came in and sat down across from me, and she did not seem to be aware that I was working, and began talking to me about healthcare in this country. Now, bless her heart, she doesn't know me. I don't know her. But I was not in a mood to keep my mouth shut. So when she said to me, I don't want any part of that socialist medical care. And for once in my life, I did not drop an F-bomb, and I wasn't mean. I said, really, why? Because I would leave for Canada tomorrow if I could. And so she began to tell me about Mr. Cabela. Now, you know, if you're in the Midwest, you know who Cabela is, and you would assume Mr. Cabela Kit doesn't have to have insurance. He can probably afford any kind of medical care. But she explains to me that he was in Canada with his wife, and his wife became ill, and that she laid in a hallway because in Canada, it's first come, first serve, unless, of course, you're in the middle of a heart attack. And so, you know, she laid in this hallway for several hours. And I said, because of insurance? And she, of course, said, oh, no, he doesn't have insurance. He just pays their medical bills. Like, I'm having trouble feeling sorry for this guy. But I said, okay, you're blaming that on socialized medicine. Well, my mom is in the U.S. where we don't have socialized medicine. And I said, she had a massive stroke 2 years ago. And I said, she was taken by ambulance to the hospital where she was still in the hallway of the emergency room 3 days later. Did we get that? 3 days later. Under our for-profit system. Now, they went ahead and ran tests on her and then returned her to her hallway. They administered medication, returned her to her hallway for 3 days after a stroke. That, ladies and gentlemen, that's the reality. Socialized medicine is no worse than anything else, and I guarantee you that all of my friends in Canada will tell you they've never, ever had to worry about going bankrupt because mom got Alzheimer's or dad died of cancer. That happens in our country every hour. Tell me again, what's wrong with socialized medicine? My mom's care smoothed out the minute she went on Medicaid. Medicaid and Medicare are smooth running because they're not private. They're not for profit. Are we getting the point here? Healthcare that's for profit is wrong. No one should profit off of someone else's bad luck or bad DNA. So, what can we do in our communities to fix things like that? Well, what we've seen since it all began with the first time he was in office is our communities have built up groups. I don't know how many exist, but I belong to 5 that I know of. I have land in Kansas, so I belong to a Kansas group. I physically live in Oklahoma, so I have an Oklahoma group, a couple of those actually. I have a group of writers who rebel. Okay? Community. We can't change our broken government without banding together again. And I feel like if nothing good ever comes of the idiot that's in the White House now, this is going to be the good part. And that's that we're not willing anymore to sit back and let y'all do nothing. And I'm not just talking about Republicans here. I watched some Democrats last year that offended the out of me because they didn't want the American people to have a say in their raises. Anybody ever had their boss say, how much you want to give me for your raise this year? Anybody? No. And they shouldn't have that option either. And guess what? They should be on Medicaid, Medicare, right? The minute they hit the age, that's where they need to be. These diamond policies that they all have to go away. They can't begin to fix problems that don't affect them. They don't care. Debbie.
I want to get back to the lady who commented on the healthcare system. And I think we kind of got away from that. But I think the point was, you and she did not agree. She made a statement, and you followed it up with something that showed that maybe universal health care is a good idea. How did she respond to your statement back to her?
She sat back. And you could tell that she was processing what I'd said. And it just so happened my sister-in-law came back and we left. to go to her next appointment. Now, a little bit later, at her next appointment, that same lady came in and nodded her head at me, but she was called right back in. We crossed a bridge that I didn't think was there. I didn't think we could have those kind of conversations civilly anymore because we don't ever see it. Ever. And I felt like, at the end of the day, that I made her think about something besides the word socialized. Because we talked about the real ramifications of the two systems. And people are so scared of the word socialized that they won't even look at what it means to them and their pocketbooks. It was a good conversation. It was a good conversation.
I think you made a real connection there, even though it was extremely temporary. She didn't say anything truly out of anger. You didn't either. It gave both of you a chance to make a connection. And that's what we need in the coming year is, yes, living in Oklahoma, where Don and I do in the same area, you have a lot of megas. You have a lot of Republicans who have been taught that socialism is demonic. It's the same thing as communism, although there's never been any real communism. It's all been authoritarianism. But democratic socialism is nothing like that. But it's been made the dirty word. So when you have an opportunity to talk with someone in a calm and rational way, you may not change their mind, but you've given the opportunity for connection. And that thought that you put in their head's going to stay there. They may hear it from someone else. They may say something that you didn't think about, that they're concerned about that. But that connection is what is needed, because then you start seeing each other as people, not enemies, not the other side. And only through seeing each other as people can we move forward together to solve our problems. And so that's why Don and I have really felt like discussing community and what it means to be in community, and the fact that you don't have to agree with everybody in your community. You do have to care about them, and you do have to have some sort of connection. And so, again, that's what we're going to explore over the next year, is those types of connections. I want to share one example of connection. I could probably do it later, but for years and years, I sang in a church choir. Everyone in the choir took great pride in the choir. We all worked hard. We had some excellent choir directors, and it was a point of pride for us to deliver beautiful music on Sunday morning or for special occasions. Within that choir, we had ultra-conservatives and we had progressives and everything in between. But that did not matter, because we were there to support each other in music. That was our community. And so to support each other in the choir also meant caring about what's happening to them in their lives. So it's not impossible to be in close community with people who think differently than you. It also gives you a chance to gain a greater understanding of why someone would think differently. I think in today's very separated world, we cling to the people most like ourselves out of a need to feel safe. We don't want to be attacked verbally. We don't want to be made to feel that we're wrong or that we don't belong or whatever. We've got to get rid of that. And that's part of developing community. Hey, Dawn.
I think one of the most important aspects of communities is the connection. Because as human beings, we need connection. And I think the concern with a lot of people is we're connected all right, but we're not connected to each other. We're connected to these things. Right? Everywhere you look, someone's on a phone. They're walking and they're on a phone. You know, there was a woman, I read an article one day that there was a woman in New York who was on her phone and fell into one of the open things that they were working on. Broke her leg. Guys, get off your phone. The world is not going to end, you know, but you could get hit by a bus. I cannot connect with another person if all I do is talk to my phone. And God forbid AI is making it even easier. Let me just talk to AI. Because AI tells me what I want to hear. No. Mm-mm. Again, easy answers. No, we are not going to play Congress here and go for easy answers.
We as Americans, and probably people throughout history all over the world, we want a quick fix. However, quick fixes rarely do the job. Many real changes come from looking at the long term and what it would take to really fix this thing. And it takes time. And we are in for instant gratification. And you can kind of see where that got us. And I'm sure the same was true in Roman times and Greek times and the Sumerians and whatever. We want it easy. We want it quick. We don't want to have to mess with it anymore. Except that rarely works. These same problems wouldn't keep raising their heads if those quick fixes worked. So
it's time for the American people to start demanding answers. And if that means that we have to show up in our leaders' offices without warning, follow them around the Capitol building to make them listen, I guess that's what it means. It might look a little silly for them to try to go to lunch with 50 people from Alva, Oklahoma following them. You know what I'm saying? We have to make them uncomfortable, guys. They haven't been uncomfortable. My God, they're making money hand over fist. All of them are making money at our expense. No problems are getting fixed. They're getting paid off. It's like that joke about our legislators should wear signs on them like the NASCAR drivers of who's sponsoring them, right? No. We're sponsoring them, and it's time for us to hold them accountable for all that sponsoring.
Well, we're just about to wrap things up. So I just wanted, this is December. We're recording this the week before Christmas. You will not see it until right after Christmas. But because of that, I wanted to bring up just a couple of things, both related to community and to Christmas. Two of my favorite Christmas movies, or stories, I should say, is Dickens' A Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life. And they're two sides of the same coin. You have Ebenezer Scrooge, who out of fear of being poor, turns away from people. He has friends when he's an apprentice. That goes away. He has a fiancée. She ends up turning away because all he can think about is getting more money before they can get married. He has a nephew that wants to be a part of his life. He shuts him out. Scrooge has nobody. He has no community. He has no one that he cares about. And of course, through the three spirits and Jacob Marley's ghost, he goes back and he sees all those turning points where he rejected being part of a community, part of a person's life, embracing someone else into his life. And as he sees how that has turned him into this miserable, hateful man, he has a change of heart. And he reestablishes with his nephew. He establishes a relationship with Bob Cratchit and his family. He becomes part of the community, donating to charities and helping people out, and it enriches his life, and he becomes part of community. In It's a Wonderful Life, he is part of a community. He's made lots of sacrifices to his own personal aims to see that community is encouraged and protected. But he loses hope through an incident that he has no control over and was not his fault. He realizes that he could go to jail. He doesn't believe that his community is going to protect him. And so initially he's going to kill himself. Of course, we have an angel that interferes. And he tells the angel, well, it would probably be better if I had never been born. The angel's able to show him what the world would like if he'd never been born. And it was not as good as it was with him in it. And he begins to see that no matter what happens to him, he made a difference. And of course, he gets his life back, and the whole community comes out to help him, and the charges are dropped, and everything's wonderful. So Scrooge didn't have a community, but became part of one. I forgot his name, but Jimmy Stewart had this wonderful community, but lost hope, but understood what it gave to him and got it back. I think those are two important things to remember about what community can do for us. And we're going to, as I said, investigate that over the next year.
I, of course, am of a different bent. My favorite Christmas movie is Die Hard, which is about family, sort of. Good. We look forward to new hope in the new year. Make sure, all of you, that you take care of yourselves before anyone else, because your family and your community are counting on you. So you've got to stay healthy. You've got to stay mentally stable. So, bury the dead bodies and then walk away. Okay? Let it go. I know, that's harder said than done. We will be talking to you in January, and we'll be talking about the beauty of community. This is Voices from the Middle with Debbie Burkhart and Dawn Allen.
We'll see you
and we will see you in the new year.